that has left cardinals and bishops completely speechless, Pope Leo XIV didn't give a speech. He didn't hold a press conference. He simply released a document. A short, simple document titled Duodecim Lumina, the 12 Lights. Inside this document are 12 reforms, 12 mandates, and they don't just trim the edges of the Catholic Church, they take a sledgehammer to its foundations. These aren't suggestions, they are orders, effective immediately. What follows are the 12 reforms that just changed the Catholic Church forever. Before we dive into this, I need you to do me a favor. Drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. I want to know because what we're about to discuss affects Catholics everywhere, and I have a feeling this video found you for a reason. Now let's get into it. The first reform is called the Vow of Simplicity, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Effective today, every cardinal and bishop in the Roman Curia is ordered to vacate their palatial apartments. Their lavish residences, funded by the Church for centuries, are to be turned over to charitable organizations that house the homeless. They are to move into simple, modest quarters in a shared Vatican residence, no larger than the apartment of a working-class family in Rome. Think about that for a second. The so-called princes of the Church, men accustomed to frescoed ceilings and marble floors, have just been told to pack their bags. Their company cars are gone. Their stipends for fine dining investments, gone. The document is painfully clear. A shepherd must smell like his sheep, not like a king in a distant castle. You can just imagine the scenes inside the Vatican walls right now. The frantic phone calls, the disbelief. We have a source, a junior priest who works in the Secretariat of State, who told us the atmosphere is one of quiet panic. He described seeing one of the Church's most powerful cardinals, a man who has shaped policy for decades, just standing in a hallway, staring at a wall, pale as a ghost. He didn't say a word. He just stood there. This isn't just about image. This is a direct strike at the culture of power and privilege that has defined the Vatican for 1,000 years. It's Pope Leo looking at the splendor and saying, "This is not the way." The second reform is the open gardens. For centuries, the Vatican gardens have been a symbol of exclusion. A private paradise, walled off from the world. A place where popes and cardinals could walk in perfect manicured peace, away from the messiness of the city. As of today, that's over. Pope Leo has ordered the main gates of the Vatican gardens to be opened, not for tourists, but for the homeless of Rome. The document specifies that the gardens are to become a place of refuge, a place where the city's most vulnerable can find shade, receive a meal, and be treated with dignity. Tents will be set up, medical stations, food distribution points. The Pope's private sanctuary is now a public shelter. The visual is staggering. It's a symbolic earthquake. One journalist in Rome tweeted a photo this morning of the Swiss Guard, not standing with their usual stoic expressions, but helping an elderly homeless woman find a place to sit on a bench that, just yesterday, was reserved for a cardinal. The reaction from ordinary Romans has been overwhelming. People are gathering at the edges of the Vatican, not to protest, but to watch, to witness this unbelievable change. Some are bringing food and water to donate. They're seeing a church they've only ever read about in the Gospels. But for the traditionalists inside, this is a desecration. One anonymous Vatican official told an Italian newspaper, "He is turning the sacred into a spectacle. He is inviting the wolves into the sheepfold." But Leo's document has an answer for that. The body of Christ is found in the broken, not in the manicured hedges of the powerful. The third reform is called the sale of opulence. This one hits the Vatican where it holds its power, its wealth. The Pope has ordered the Vatican Bank, in coordination with a new lay-led committee, to begin the systematic liquidation of all non-historical, non-essential assets. What does that mean? It means hundreds of millions of dollars in stocks, bonds, and real estate holdings around the world. It means a vast art collection, hidden away in vaults, that is not tied to the Vatican museums. Pieces that haven't been seen by the public for centuries. All of it is to be sold. Every last cent of the profit is to be placed in a new fund called the Mercy Fund, which will be distributed directly to dioceses in the poorest nations on earth. The money is for food, for medicine, for clean water, for education. No exceptions. The Vatican is, in effect, bankrupting itself on purpose. It's a voluntary dismantling of its own financial empire. The financial world is stunned. The art world is in an uproar. But inside the church, this is a declaration of war on the status quo. For decades, reformers have begged for financial transparency and for the church to use its immense wealth to help the poor. They were always met with excuses and delays. Pope Leo didn't wait for a committee. He didn't ask for permission. He just did it. In one of the most powerful lines of the entire document, he writes, "We cannot preach about the poverty of Christ while sitting on a throne of gold. The time for words is over. The time for action is now." This isn't just balancing a budget. It's a theological statement written in dollars and cents. The fourth reform, the shepherd's salary, makes it personal. It brings the revolution down to every single person who works for the church. Pope Leo has decreed a universal salary cap for all clergy and Vatican employees, from the newest priest to the highest-ranking cardinal. And that cap? It's pegged to the average annual salary of a public school teacher in Rome. Let that sink in. A man who runs a global dicastery, overseeing thousands of people and millions of dollars, will now earn the same as a person teaching fourth-grade history. The Pope himself is included. His own salary is now officially set at that same modest level. The justification in the document is simple and devastatingly powerful. We are not CEOs, we are not managers, we are servants. It is time our bank accounts reflected that reality. This is a direct assault on careerism in the church. The idea that you can climb the ladder to gain power, wealth, and influence. It strips away the financial incentive to become a bishop or a cardinal. It forces a choice. Are you here to serve, or are you here to rule? The immediate fallout has been quiet but profound. Sources tell us of at least 2 high-ranking officials who have already submitted their resignations. They didn't give a reason. A pope saying, "We will live like you, we will struggle like you." It's a move designed to restore trust, to pull the church back to a place of moral authority that isn't based on wealth, but on authenticity. The fifth reform is where we shift from wealth to power. It's called the glass bank. For generations, the Vatican Bank, the IOR, has been a synonym for secrecy, scandal, and shadow dealings. Popes have tried to reform it before and have been met with a wall of resistance from within. Leo's approach is different. He isn't just reforming it, he's shattering it open. The mandate orders the complete and total opening of the Vatican Bank's archives, going back 50 years. Every transaction, every account holder, every secret deal. It will all be handed over to an independent non-clerical auditing firm based in New York, a team of secular financial investigators. They will have unrestricted access to everything. Their findings will be made public. This is the nuclear option for financial transparency. It's a move that has likely sent shivers down the spines of powerful people, not just in the church, but in governments and corporations around the world who may have used the Vatican's secrecy for their own ends. The potential for scandal is immense, but that seems to be the point. In the document, Leo writes, "Sunlight is the only disinfectant. We can no longer hide our sins in the dark and then claim to be bearers of the light. Let the world see everything. Let them judge for themselves." This is more than just a financial move. It's a statement about truth. It's saying that the church is no longer above scrutiny, that it's willing to face its past, no matter how ugly, to build an honest future. For anyone who has ever felt that the church was just another corrupt institution, this reform is a direct, stunning answer. The sixth reform is the confession of sins. This one deals with the darkest shadow over the modern church, the abuse crisis. For decades, the scandal was compounded by a culture of secrecy, of bishops moving priests, of reports being buried, of the institution protecting itself before it protected children. This reform aims to end that forever. The mandate establishes a new, independent global body. It's called the Lay Commission for Survivor Justice. It is composed entirely of lay experts, former prosecutors, child psychologists, and crucially, survivors of clerical abuse. And here is the core of the reform. Every bishop, in every diocese in the world, is now required by canon law to report any credible accusation of abuse against a cleric directly to this independent commission within 72 hours. Not to their superiors in Rome, not to an internal review board, directly to the lay commission. Failure to do so results in immediate removal, no appeal, no second chances. The power to investigate is being stripped from the hands of the bishops and given to the laity and to survivors themselves. It is the single most radical shift in power and accountability on the abuse crisis in the history of the Church. The reaction has been immediate and deeply divided. Survivor groups, who have fought for this for years, are expressing a sense of cautious, tearful hope. One prominent survivor, a man named Brandon, who we spoke to this morning, said, For the first time it feels like they're finally listening, like we're being seen as human beings, not as a PR problem. But inside the Church's power structure, there is fury. Some are calling it a betrayal of the episcopate. They say it treats every bishop as a potential criminal. Leo's response in the document is chilling. For too long, we have treated our children as potential liars. The scales must now be balanced. We will trust the victims first. The seventh reform builds on this. It's called the Council of the Voiceless. It institutionalizes the shift in power. Pope Leo has created a new permanent advisory council that will report directly to him. This council isn't made up of cardinals or theologians. It is made up of 30 lay people from around the world. The document specifies the exact makeup of the council. There must be at least 15 women. There must be representatives from the global poor, chosen by grassroots charities. There must be scientists, artists, and young people under the age of 25. And there must be a permanent seat on the council for a non-believer, an atheist or agnostic, described as a voice of sincere doubt, to ensure the Church does not close itself off from the questions of the modern world. This council will have a formal public voice on every major decision the Pope makes. Before any encyclical is issued, before any major appointment is made, the Council of the Voiceless must be consulted, and their recommendation must be published. The Pope is not bound to follow their advice, but he is bound to listen. He is binding himself to hear the voices that the hierarchy has ignored for centuries. This is a revolution in church governance. It's a direct challenge to the clericalism that has defined Catholicism, the idea that only ordained men have the wisdom to lead. Some are calling it the beginning of a truly people's church. Others are calling it chaos, the introduction of mob rule into the divine order. One conservative blogger wrote, "The Pope has invited the jesters to advise the king. This will end in ruin." But for millions of Catholics who have felt unheard, unseen, and unrepresented, it feels like the windows of a stuffy room have finally been thrown open. And that brings us to the eighth reform, which is perhaps the most controversial so far, the diaconate of women. For years, the question of women's roles in the Church has been debated, studied, and ultimately shelved. Pope Leo has just taken it off the shelf and placed it at the center of the table. The reform does two things. First, it officially reopens and mandates the immediate conclusion of the study into the female diaconate, an ancient role in the early Church where women served as ministers. Second, and this is the part that is causing shockwaves, it gives diocesan bishops the authority, in pastoral situations where there is a severe priest shortage, to begin training and ordaining women as deacons now, pending the final results of the commission. This is a subtle but explosive change. A deacon is an ordained minister. They can preach at Mass. They can preside over baptisms, weddings, and funerals. This is not the ordination of women to the priesthood. The document is clear about that, but it is a massive crack in the stained glass ceiling. It is a recognition that the ministry of women is essential and, in some places, desperately needed. The reaction has been, as you can imagine, explosive. Progressive Catholic women's groups are calling it a historic first step, a moment of profound validation. A leader of one group in the U.S., a woman named Megan, told us through tears, "We have been serving in the shadows for so long, to be seen, to be acknowledged as ministers in our own right. It's everything." But for traditionalists, this is a step too far. It's a perceived break with sacred tradition. The theological arguments are already flying. Is this a slippery slope to women priests? Is it a concession to secular culture? The Church feels like it's holding its breath. Pope Leo is not forcing every bishop to do this. He is giving them the option. He is decentralizing the decision, trusting the bishops on the ground to know the needs of their communities. He is trading rigid uniformity for pastoral flexibility, and in doing so, he has ignited one of the most passionate debates the Church has seen in a century. The ninth reform is perhaps the most unexpected. It's called the Year of Listening. After all this action, all this radical change, Pope Leo is ordering a pause. He has declared a global, one-year moratorium on all new doctrinal pronouncements from the Vatican. For 1 full year, Rome will be silent. Instead, he has commanded that this be a year of listening. Every bishop is ordered to organize and personally preside over listening sessions in their diocese. They are not to preach, they are not to teach. They are to sit in silence and listen to the stories, the hopes, the pains, and the questions of the ordinary people in their pews. The document says they must especially seek out those who have left the Church, those who feel alienated, and listen to their reasons without argument or defense. At the end of the year, each bishop must submit a report to Rome, not summarizing what they heard, but transcribing it. The raw, unfiltered voices of the faithful. These reports will form the basis of the next global synod. It's a complete reversal of the top-down model of communication. For centuries, Rome has spoken, and the world was expected to listen. Now, Leo is ordering the leaders of his church to be quiet and to learn from the people they are meant to serve. It's a deeply spiritual and humble act, but it's also a risky one. What will the bishops hear? Will they hear affirmations of faith or a torrent of anger and frustration? By ordering his leaders to listen, Pope Leo is gambling that the Holy Spirit speaks not just through popes and cardinals, but through the messy, complicated, and often contradictory faith of everyday people. He is betting the future of the Church on the wisdom of the crowd. The 10th reform is the universal welcome. This one strikes at the very heart of who gets to be a part of the Church. It's a short but incredibly powerful mandate. It states simply that no person, regardless of their marital status, their sexual orientation, their political beliefs, or their personal history, can be denied the sacraments, especially communion and confession, if they approach in good faith. This is a direct shot across the bow of the culture wars that have dominated the Church in many parts of the world. No more priests denying communion to politicians they disagree with. No more shutting the door on divorced and remarried Catholics. No more shaming LGBTQ+ individuals who are seeking a connection with God. The mandate is clear. The sacraments are not a reward for the perfect. They are medicine for the sick. And as the document states, we are all sick. We are all in need of God's mercy. Who are we to stand at the door of the hospital and decide who is worthy of a doctor? This reform doesn't change any official church doctrine on marriage or morality, but it completely changes the pastoral approach. It shifts the focus from judgment to mercy, from rules to people. It effectively tells priests that their job is not to be a gatekeeper, but a bridge builder. The fallout is already huge. On one side, you have Catholics who have felt judged and excluded for years, who are now weeping with relief. A woman named Lisa, who is divorced and remarried, wrote online, "For 20 years I have felt like an outcast in my own spiritual home. Today, the Pope told me I am welcome. I can't stop crying." On the other side, you have those who believe this will create confusion and undermine church teaching. They see it as a surrender to a anything-goes morality. A prominent theologian wrote that this reform reduces sin to a footnote and makes mercy meaningless. The Church is now grappling with a fundamental question. Is it a fortress for the pure or a field hospital for the wounded? Pope Leo has made his answer clear. The 11th reform is the barefoot pilgrimage, and it is a piece of pure symbolic genius. It's a mandate that Pope Leo applies to himself and to the entire Roman Curia, the central government of the Church. Every year, during the season of Lent, the Pope and all the cardinals and archbishops who work in Rome must undertake a week-long pilgrimage. But this isn't a comfortable bus tour. They must travel on foot. They must carry their own belongings. They must live on alms, on the charity of the people they meet along the way. And the destination will not be a famous shrine. The destination, the document specifies, will be a site of modern suffering. One year, it might be a refugee camp. The next, a community devastated by climate change. The next, a forgotten, impoverished neighborhood. The Pope is ordering his top advisors to leave their desks, to leave their echo chamber, and to walk, literally, among the people who are suffering the most. To feel the dust on their feet and the hunger in their stomachs. To look into the eyes of the people their decisions affect. The first pilgrimage is scheduled for next year. The destination? The document says it will be the migrant camps on the island of Lesbos, in Greece. Imagine that image. The Pope of the Catholic Church and his cardinals, sleeping in tents alongside refugees, eating the same food, listening to their stories. It's a powerful, humbling image designed to reshape the consciousness of the Church's leaders. It's a way of saying that theology and doctrine are empty if they are not connected to the real, raw suffering of humanity. It's a pilgrimage away from power and toward reality. And that brings us to the 12th and final reform, the mandate of mercy. This one is different. It's not an administrative change. It's a philosophical one. It's a single sentence that could change how the Church operates for centuries. It reads, "In any and all conflicts between the dictates of canon law and the immediate urgent call to an act of mercy, mercy must always prevail." This is a theological earthquake. For centuries, the Church has been built on a foundation of law, canon law, a complex system of rules and regulations that govern every aspect of Catholic life. It is often rigid, absolute, and impersonal. This new mandate doesn't abolish the law, but it places something above it: mercy. It gives every priest, every bishop, every Catholic a new lens through which to see their faith. When a rule is in conflict with a human being in need, the human being comes first. If a rule says someone is excluded, but mercy says they should be included, mercy wins. If a law says something is forbidden, but mercy demands compassion, compassion wins. This is a radical shift from a religion of rules to a religion of relationships. It empowers individual conscience and pastoral discretion in a way that is unprecedented. It's also incredibly risky. Critics will say it creates anarchy, that it allows anyone to justify anything in the name of mercy. They'll say it dissolves the objective truth of the faith into subjective feeling. But Pope Leo seems to believe that this is a risk the Church must take. The final line of the entire document, right after this 12th point, is a quote from the Gospels. "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath." He is reminding his Church what it is for, not to serve its own rules, but to serve humanity. So there you have it, 12 reforms, 12 lights, a vow of simplicity, open gardens, the sale of opulence, a shepherd's salary, the glass bank, the confession of sins, the counsel of the voiceless, the diaconate of women, the year of listening, the universal welcome, the barefoot pilgrimage, and the mandate of mercy. Taken together, this is not a renovation. It's a demolition and a rebuilding. Pope Leo XIV has, in a single day, initiated a revolution from the very top of the Catholic Church. He has taken on the culture of wealth, the structure of power, the crisis of abuse, the exclusion of women, and the very legalistic soul of the institution. He has gambled everything on the idea that the Church must become smaller, poorer, humbler, and more merciful if it is to survive. We don't know what the next move will be. We don't know if the institution will break under the strain of such rapid change, or if this is the beginning of a new, incredible chapter of faith in the world. The schism that some are whispering about feels terrifyingly possible. But so does the hope of a true renewal. Whether you're Catholic or not, what is happening right now in Rome will have consequences for the entire world. When an institution with 1.3 billion members undergoes a transformation this profound, it changes the global conversation about power, about justice, and about what it means to believe in something bigger than yourself. Maybe this isn't just church news. Maybe this is something deeper, a sign that even the oldest, most powerful institutions on earth can be cracked open. A reminder that even the oldest doors can still lead to a new beginning. So the question is, where do you stand? Do you think Pope Leo is a reckless radical going too far, or a true prophet finally doing what needed to be done? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'll be reading them all. And if you want to follow this story as it develops, to get real-time updates on this incredible moment of faith, power, and truth, make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss what happens next.